welcome this morning. We have a very special service for you guys today. We are going to be sharing, as you can see, obviously all the chairs here. Our Mexico team just returned about a week ago. It seems like it was a little longer than that. It's crazy. It's been a week, but 15 of us headed down to Guadalajara, Mexico, and I'm going to invite the team to come on up and fill in the chairs here. So, Mexico team, would you come on? That's it. You can welcome. Yep. All right. Come on down. What a good-looking group, huh? And come on, there you go. Now, as they're grabbing some chairs, I think we're one. We don't need them all. I think. Okay, yeah, we got one short, so we're good. So, all right. So as they're seated, we're gonna get to some. Here, Kev, sit over there. Yeah, I'll sit in the middle. That makes it easier. So, how many of you know that this week is coming the Olympics? Right, we got the Olympics in Paris, France. How many of you are excited about the Olympics? How many of you couldn't care less? Whatever, you know. I like the sprinting. I like watching the sprinting. The swimming can be fun. I like watching the Olympics. But what's going to happen is that after every event, right, there's going to be either exuberant joy for some athletes, and for others, that the agony of defeat. But eventually, the top three will find their way to the podium, right? And they will stand on that podium, and flags will go up, and their country's national anthem will be sung, hopefully better than the Home Run Derby national anthem. If anybody watched that, that was terrible. Oh, man. If you didn't watch it, don't Google it. It was not pretty. But just let's leave it there. Poor girl. It was bad. So anyway, the national anthem, and there's a sense of pride, and they will lean forward, and what gets put around their neck, right? A ribbon with a gold, silver, or bronze medal according to their places, and they will receive their reward for all of their work and their labor. And one of the things I wanted to share, I'm not preaching, I promise, I'm not preaching. But there's a short devotional thought I wanted to bring just before we get into our having everybody share today. It's a passage from Isaiah, chapter 10. And in the context, Isaiah was talking about God. God was kind of bringing some judgment on a king who was being rough with Israel. And God says, the king was boasting, I've got all this power, I'm going to crush Israel. And God says this, can the axe boast greater power than the person who uses it? Is the saw greater than the person who saws? Can the rod strike unless a hand moves it? Can a wooden cane walk by itself? And the idea, obviously, behind this is that we're just tools, right, in the hands of Almighty God. Like, it's not so much anything about us that really ultimately comes down to the one who wields or uses us, right? If you put an axe in my hands and an axe in a lumberjack's hand, right? Listen, it doesn't matter if my axe is sharper, that lumberjack knows what he's doing. You put a violin in my hands, I'm sorry for you, right? But you put that in a master's hands, all of a sudden it's going to sound a little, because it's not so much about the instruments. The instrument's job is to be ready and available and useful. But can the axe boast greater power than the person who uses it? It's not so much about that. And so as we were heading into our week, every night we would gather as a team for like a debrief and a devotional time. And we started off the week with this one thought. In Revelation, it says that there are 24 elders standing around the throne of God, right, singing to God in heaven. And it says, and they, these 24, now I don't know who these 24 people are, but whatever it is, they have earned the title of elder in heaven, and they're like around the throne. They must have been like really good people to get that. I don't even know. Like, I don't know what qualifies you to be an elder around 24 of them, only 24. So I don't know. Maybe some of you know who those people are. I don't. But it says they laid their crowns down before the throne. So these incredible people had done something to merit this title, would lay their crowns down in front of Jesus. And the whole idea is that it doesn't matter what we do, he gets all the glory. We're going to talk about what God did through us, but we're just a bunch of tools. I called you that in church. But we're all that way. Because it's not so much that we're standing on a podium getting rewards for what we've done. Because we can't boast anything other than we were available. And honestly, we could do nothing without you sending us. And so this is a collective effort. And here's the cool thing. Sometimes when those athletes get up on the podium, you know what they do? They like, hey, you come up, join me. And you come and so gold, silver, and they're all, and they stand together in victory. Like we. It's not me, it's we. And when we get to heaven, guess what? We all win. We all join the podium because God won for us. So we're not boasting. So we talked about the whole week. Crowns down was kind of one of our little, our opening mantra for the week. Like, just, it's not about us. We're here to serve. And so I just want to share that with you, to be available. As we continue to be available, God uses us. It's not about us. He gets the glory, and we all win. It's a great way God works it. All right. So I want to briefly, tell you what we did through the week, and then I'm going to open it up for some questions for all of these great people, and they're going to share their stories. And I don't think we're taking questions from the crowd, although that would be interesting. I know they got nervous when I said that. All right, so just so you know what we did, just to give you a little bit of an overview. So we flew out, dark 30, Saturday, a week ago Saturday. We got here at 3:45 in the morning. Oh, it was early. And graciously, Jeremy and Tim and Ethan drove us to Philadelphia Airport. We flew all the way to Dallas, barely. We made it, Gab. We made it. There was some ticketing issues, but we made it. Jesus did it. Jesus did it, right? Jesus did it. That was it. We got through. I'm just telling you, the trip started off. Her name on her passport didn't match her name on her ticket. And if anybody knows, you don't fly. And there's 15 of us, and the agents go, and I don't know, and she's on the phone, and she's like, you're all going to miss your flight, and we're just sitting there. And a guy walks up to the counter next to us, and he has a shirt on that says, Jesus did it. And I'm just sitting there praying, going, Jesus, just do it again? Can you do it again? And just praying, and after, half an hour, she just goes, okay, you're good. Like, what? I don't know what she did. I told her, I said, you're an angel. We got to the gate with they were boarding. 4 minutes to spare. Jesus did it. So that's how our trip started. So we get to Philly, we get to Dallas, all the way to Guadalajara. Chris picks us up at the airport, our missionary. It was great. And that night we spent time at their house. Next day, church Sunday morning. I'll let everybody describe it. Church Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon, we did construction. You'll see the construction work. We'll be flying through some pictures, so you can have those pictures scrolling. There you go. So we did construction work, and we did all sorts of stuff. Yep, dirt into buckets into concrete mixers with concrete mix and water, and those mixers would go in, and then buckets up ladders, and then you'd see, eventually you're going to see there were blocks and I-beams that Vic was welding, because he's up on scaffolding on a bucket, welding, standing on a 5-gallon bucket, standing on scaffolding. I mean, it was OSHA not approved. But we did, so those I-beams up top, and you got to slide these big rocks, like 40-pound stones through the I-beams for the ceilings. It's the most physically demanding construction trip we've ever done. We did that Sunday afternoon, all day Monday, all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday. Some of those days, a few people would go and help the missionary Julie with some other things. But by and large, most of us were here. Again, I'll let everybody tell that. Thursday, we went and visited a rehab center in the morning for men and women who are in drug and addiction rehab. It's a government-run program, and we shared stories with them and did a service with them and gave out socks and hygiene kits and all sorts of things. And then after that afternoon, we went and visited an orphanage. And we played with about 30, 40 kids for about 4 hours, 3 hours, and played Connect Four and soccer and Legos and chess and did nails and did all this stuff. That was the Uno. Yeah, I mean, I got beat by a 3-year-old in Connect Four, like, repeatedly. So yeah, kids in there were about 3 to about 18. We were there most of Thursday. Friday was our day off. We did some sightseeing. Saturday, got up at, again, 3:45 for the trip home. So that's sort of like the week in a nutshell. I'll let everybody fill in some of those details, and we have some questions that I'm going to be asking, and then what I will do is I'll let whoever wants to take a shot at them go for it. So here we go. First question will be this for everybody. It's just, what was the most fun part of the trip for you? We're going to ask a lot of questions, so just a few of you. What was the most fun part of the trip for you? Who wants to go first? And you got microphones. Who's got mics? We got 2 mics down there, so we can spread them out. You got a mic, so we got a mic. I can go. So I'm just going to sit down and let whoever wants to go first. All right. Is that Levi? Everybody's pointing to Levi. Go for it.
Thank you. I guess I've been voluntold to go first. So my favorite part of the trip was probably the orphanage, because of just the constant joy that the kids were showing. They were very appreciative that we were there and just spending time with them. And it just felt like a very good, right thing to do, and I really enjoyed that.
Awesome. All right. Go ahead, John.
So this was my 6th time going to Guadalajara. I've done a lot of trips over the years, and one of the things I take away the most is getting to know the team, and just each team has a different dynamic. Every year there's different personalities involved, and so getting to know all these people and their hearts for coming and working with them and learning how they handle stress is always super fun to watch.
Or not handle stress.
Or not handle stress, which I wasn't handling very well at night, but that's a whole other conversation. So.
I would say playing with the kids, especially that game, Connect Four. It didn't matter that, there was a language barrier because the game's pretty simple, colors and numbers, and, they win, you high five, and you get the big smile. So that was great.
All right, somebody else. Most fun part of the trip for you?
I think for me, kind of like John, this was my 3rd time, but the evolution of seeing the church continue to be developed, and then also the relationships there, but also being responsible for other people that weren't part of the church, that are now part of the church, that are also part of the mission trip, and seeing them have their experience, I think is very rewarding, because it's kind of like each time that you're going, there's a new reason why you're there, and mine has evolved into making sure that others are there and that they're able to have that same experience and get to see God work in their lives.
I'm having some PTSD just looking at that. Yeah, that was, it was hot up there. Let me tell you, it was hot. Yep, that was but just so you guys know too, what we're building there. So if for those of you who don't know the history, I'll just give you a little history on that property that you see behind there, right? 2017, a large gift was given to our church, and we felt like we were supposed to, our board said, okay, well, we need a tithe on that, like a financial gift. And the tithe came to, it was $27,000 that we were supposed to give away. I was like, we don't know who we're supposed to give that money to. And it was Nick Oliva who said, we'll know. That's all he said, we'll know. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Chris. We had already been in Guadalajara once. We were going back again, but not to this site, to a different place. And he said, oh, by the way, I know you guys are coming down. We have another place we'd like you to, like, would you consider? He's like, there's this other place. They're starting a church out there. They're brand new. They could use some help buying some property. He said, so I don't know if you guys could contribute some money towards that. He was asking for like $5,000. And I said, okay. He began to tell me, he said they have a church building, then they want to buy more lots along the way. He said, but it's a long-term vision. I said, well, how much to do all of it? And he goes, oh, that's a lot of money. I said, well, how much? And he goes, that's $27,000. And I was like, oh, you don't say. Like, I'll get right back to you. And so, long story short, Lifetree, you bought that land. You bought that land. And then through the years, you've continued to buy those bricks and those blocks and that concrete. So now this is our 6th trip there? 6th?
Sixth trip to
Six-
Tlacomoco.
to there.
No, 7 trips to Tlacomoco. No, that was my 7th trip over.
6,
Over.
which means we've, all said and done, we've given almost $80,000 to this project, if not more, to help just build all that stuff. So now what they have is a full church, 2-story church. That's done. Like a community center, they do classes on the weekends. That's done. Now, what we're working on is a 3rd portion, and this is going to be an orphanage. It's going to be a home for about 30 to 35 children. So what we were putting on there was the 2nd floor on it'll be rooms, and not only that, it'll be an orphanage and the pastor's home. The pastor currently lives in like a 2-bedroom little small building. So he has 2 kids, he and his wife, and so the 4 of them are going to be moving into one little section. It's humble, but you can see that far section there. That's where we were working. All the other stuff we've done. So that's where, those right there, those are going to be, I think that's a kitchen on the left there. Back will be a stairwell, bathroom straight ahead, 4 bedrooms on the right. Yep, those are all going to be bedrooms. It'll be mirrored up top. So that's what we're building. So it's just really neat, I think, for you to see, like, this is what God is doing and Lifetree's had a huge part in it. Other churches are helping too around the country, but like we've had a big part in this, and it's just a cool story. So I just want to give you some backstory on that. All right, anybody else? Most fun part of the trip for you?
I believe going with the children also, and one was watching my daughter get attacked by one. It was hilarious. Kid was hanging on her hood by his teeth and had her pinned on the floor. She was helpless, trying to tickle him to get him off of her, but it was just a lot of fun like that. That was fun. Also, it was getting to work with the missionaries was awesome. Also, getting to know Chris and Julie, they're really in this for such a wonderful calling, and that was probably the most fun for me, is just to work with them on this.
Awesome. All right, come on, we need some funny stories too. Come on. I know this.
I definitely think that there's been a lot of like really, really good key moments, but I would have to say when I got hit by that rock in the head, that was pretty funny for everyone else except me. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I just think that was a funny moment, but the way that everyone was so willing to help and just make sure that I was okay and that I could walk and breathe and do what I need to do. But yeah, again, thank you everyone so much for helping me through that hard time.
You want me to share? I'm just kind of laughing at this picture right now.
Oh, yeah, that's
But-
Kevin, and that's the foreman for the site. His name is Don Chepe, and in a former life, he was a luchador, a Mexican wrestler. So this is their posing. Yeah, so he's a great guy.
So I just kind of have a funny story. So the Sunday that we went to the church, we got in late, like 40 minutes because of traffic. And first of all, the traffic was the most crazy thing. We all need to just kind of give respect to our driver because he did amazing things. Like, I don't know how he did what he did, but also when we get there, they asked us like if we had any birthdays with us, and conveniently, I had a birthday 4 days like before that Sunday, and so they call me up in the front, and the pastor prays over me, and I go to walk back to my seat, and they're like, no, you're gonna stay up here, and so they start singing this happy birthday song. I'm clapping along, and I notice there's a line of people in front of me, and I'm like, oh, what are we doing? And so everyone, one by one, got up. Everyone in the church got up and gave me a hug, and it was a nice hug line. I don't know any of these people. I mean, I knew you guys, but like, it
It's
was
a-
just an interesting birthday experience. I'm never gonna forget it. I think we should do it at Life Tree too.
That's what we said. We're considering that. So basically, you come up front and everybody's lines up and gives them a hug one at a time. The whole church. It was the highlight of my trip for sure. Watching him go like when he realized what was happening. They're like walking towards him. He's like, "What's happening right now?" It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I just kind of had a moment in my brain where I was like, oh.
Yes. All right. So next, all right, we'll start with light stuff. We're going to get to heavy stuff in a second, a little more meaningful. But best thing you ate. Best thing you ate in Mexico. Come on, don't be shy.
Definitely the churros. That was one of my favorite things. But a lot of the food down there is all fresh. It's not like here. So my favorite thing was everything that went in my mouth. Everything.
It's so good. All right, somebody else. Best thing you ate. Linda.
Best thing I ate were the papas rellenas. That is, I would try to explain what it was to somebody at work, and she goes, "Oh, it's a loaded baked potato." No, it's so much more, so much better. I got the recipe. I'm going to try to make it.
Yeah, basically, think of everything you'd put in a taco in a baked potato, covered in cheese. Oh, it's so good. All right, somebody else. Best thing you ate. Somebody hasn't gone yet. Come on, Felicity. What's the best thing?
I would also say the churros because I was having like 2 every night, and that's how you know they're good. Because if you know me, I don't eat a lot, so.
Okay, so everyone really loved the churros, but they weren't my favorite. I think the crepes were definitely my favorite, and they had like Nutella and like fresh fruit, and it was just better than the churros.
Nutella, fresh fruit, right there, crepes. We ate good. I'm telling you, we work hard, but we eat good. We eat really good. Anybody else?
This year, for my first time down there, this was my 3rd trip to Guadalajara, I tried donuts, which I'm not a big donut person. We all know Pastor Dan is a huge donut person. They had the most amazing, fresh, melt in your mouth, delicious, I can't even describe, best donut. Best donut.
Felicity, that was a good donut. That's a good donut. They were good donuts. Yep. Telling you, we eat really, really well. Nobody saying the tacos? Come on.
The steak lava bowl. Oh my.
Anybody know what molcajete is? Okay, so Steve, all right, man. So think of lava bowls, and they fill it with cheese and broth, and then there was shrimp and steak and chicken. I'm telling you, you want to come on a missions trip with Lifetree, we take care of you. You work hard, but you eat good. You will come back heavier than you left. All right, anybody else? Gab?
I have to second the donut. That was like, I came home and I told Jeremy about it. I was like, you don't understand what we experienced.
It was a very soft donut. I don't know what they do. It was just like heavenly. I don't know. Yeah, it was good. So we ate really, really good stuff. All right, anybody else? Last chance. Next question. Go ahead, Jay. He's got to add in.
Whatever was for dinner, because after a long day of work, it just, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I typically, when it gets hot like that, I skip lunch. So the extra time in between, you're just like thinking about, oh yeah, I'm gonna murk this food. And then I actually went in the one day thinking like, all right, what's the record for tacos? And then I heard 30, and I gave up because I was like, yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. I mean, I could, but then
you'd pay for that.
The trip's over.
Yep. No, it was good. And this is probably the most coffee drinking group I've ever been on. I mean, I don't know how many gallons of coffee was consumed by you all, but it was impressive. It was a lot. And Vic found a way to have espresso almost every day. It was impressive. Like, there's little cups. Everybody's got these cups, and he's got this little cup. And I'm like, man, look at you. You got a little paper cup having espresso. It was good. All right. So, now, what was the most challenging part of the trip for you? And part 2, how did God just help guide you through that? Most challenging part of the trip for you, and how did God guide you through that? Kev, here you go.
So we were kind of like, we just got there, we were starting to look at the site. All right, what are we going to do? Where is everything? And he said, okay, so you're going to pick these up, and you're going to put them up there. And I'm like, hold up, wait, that up there. So these things were like, I don't know, 50, 60 pounds, and they got, yeah. There were some that were wet. They felt like they were 200 pounds. But we were supposed to pick them up to the scaffolding, and then from the scaffolding up to the ceiling, and the scaffolding shaking underneath you, and it was just like, wow, okay, buckle up. And I'm like, all right, Jesus, here we go. And we just did it. We did it. Everybody, like, if you had a fear of heights, if you had a fear of dying from a stone dropping on your head, we just did it. And at one point, like, the scaffolding shifted while I was holding it up on the thing, and Dan was underneath me. And I was like, oh, God! And it stopped as soon as I said God. Because I thought I was going down. I thought it was going to fall on top of Dan. It was close. But God was good. He protected us, and it was amazing, the work that we did that was, like, insanely taxing and brute force work, and we nailed it. They were like, we can't believe you moved that fast throughout the week, and that was 100% God. 100% God.
I'm going to say, well, at the construction site, for the most part, I just shoveled dirt and rocks into buckets. And what helped me to do that, when it was getting hard for me was, the team coming alongside and just saying, how are you doing? Can I help you? Or, the pastor, like your bucket would be half full of dirt, and he would put another shovel full in, and he would carry it over for you. So it was just how people kept coming alongside me and helped me getting through the day.
Being there, you don't realize like how high of an elevation you're at. I believe we were at, what, 55? We were over 5,000 feet. So right now, we're at sea level where air is, good. Up there, it's like, and you're only walking like maybe from here to the doors, and you're like, but so I'm really happy that, Jesus was able to make our lungs better and stronger so we can do this, because that was tough. That was really tough.
So I think for me, it was knowing that there are not only tools that make some of these jobs significantly easier, but also knowing that they had some of them and being unable to request them in the proper language. But when we were, John and I were starting to cut those bricks, and we had a section where every one of them needed to be cut. And Don Chepe, the Hawk Assassin, came over. He hit one with an elbow in a perfect spot. It fell, didn't break where he said it was going to. And that was the moment I was like, I need different tools. And I just went around, and I finally got the pastor, Jorge, and he gave me a grinder. And it was like, I went from taking 20 minutes to just breaking it in the wrong spot. So like, and I'm not somebody that like, once I do something 3 times and it's failed every time, I'm like, we need a new process. This is not working. This is a terrible plan. But once I did that, John and I were like flying right through it. But seeing Don Chepe struggle to make that cut and trying to chisel it like he was a caveman, I was like, all right, at least if he's struggling, I can't feel that bad because he does this all the time. And that was like a freeing feeling, because when you feel like you should be doing better, at least if you see somebody who you know should be better than you struggling, you're like, okay, we're all struggling, that's fine.
I think the most challenging thing for me is watching some of those kids eat pizza with ketchup. It was just an interesting thing to see. Cat soup. Yeah. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, it challenged my faith to hear that story, that they were putting ketchup on pizza, and they were doing it voluntarily.
It's apparently common. Apparently, yeah. Anybody else? Hard.
I could say, for me, it wasn't so much I work with my hands for a living, so that's my comfort zone. But going to the rehab center, now I'm way out of my comfort zone. I don't even like to talk. And we were to go out and pray for us with the men, and the girls went and prayed for the women. And the pastor said, they're not going to understand what you're saying, but it's God working through you. It's the Holy Spirit that's going to connect with them. And I said, okay, this is good, because if I don't sound good in my prayer, they're not going to know what I'm saying anyway. So that was good. So I went out there and we're praying, and I prayed for this one guy. Okay, that was good. I went to another guy. Okay, it was good. And when I went to the third one, I prayed for him, and I can't explain what I felt come out of me. And I knew that the Holy Spirit was talking through me to this man. I'll never know what it meant. I'll never know what it did to him. But that's how God, that's how he got me through my uncomfortable time, that I knew he was working through me, even though I have what I call a speech disability, because I don't like to talk.
Thank you, Vic. Anybody else? Hard to sing.
So I think for me, leaving to go on the trip was the hardest part, leaving the boys and leaving Jeremy. And it was very outside of my comfort zone, but I knew that it was what God wanted me to do. So there was just a constant fight in me of like, I was afraid and anxious and everything, or like, am I going to let that go and choose to follow God and trust him regardless of what happens, regardless of if I make it home or not? Like, am I going to choose to give in to my fear or follow the Lord? And the whole time I was very anxious about everything. But the first day on Sunday, we went to church, and the whole sermon was about fear. And it was just like, what is happening? Like, I just feel like there was a lot of, God was so there throughout the whole thing, and there were a lot of things like that, like concerned about my health, and I get headaches, and then I started feeling a headache, and I started feeling anxious, and then I had a quiet moment with the Lord, and then I just felt better. And it was like that kind of stuff, I don't know, not that it doesn't happen, but just being in God's will and where he puts you, where he wants you, it's like he'll carry you through. And that was like, I don't know, he was just very there, I feel like, throughout the whole thing, and that was really cool.
Anybody else? All right.
I think, real quick, the other part that was probably really hard for me, probably one of the hardest besides the physical toll, was leaving the orphanage, leaving the rehab center.
Yeah.
I was one of the last ones out of both, and I just turned around, and like everybody was waving, and it was like, we have good news. We were giving eyeglasses. We were giving food. We were just trying to bring joy, and there was a lot of smiles. There was a lot of tears. We know that, like, we bless them, but we're gone. And now it goes back to the doors locked behind us, and they're there for another 6 months, year, however long they're in there. And so I think that was really hard. Same with the orphanage. These kids, some of the most beautiful kids, biggest smiles in the world. And we go, and the door shuts again, and who's going to love them? So that was hard, but that's where we know we did what we were supposed to do, and we just pray that God will continue to help them.
Share something? I just wanted to share something that happened during this trip. I was not really able to carry a lot of those things, and I did find something running the concrete mixer, but I was determined. I wanted to do construction, and that Wednesday I had blisters. I made blisters, and they got infected. So we went with Julie instead of doing construction. I felt like useless. And then we were in the Coley, and I asked Julie how Pepe was doing. This is a family that I have been seeing since my first trip. And she said, "Oh, do you want to see Pepe?" And I said, "Yes." So we stopped and we saw Pepe, and it was such a blessing because Pepe's mother was feeling so down, so bad. She had headaches, she had bad symptoms, and God took me away from the construction so that we could be there. And we prayed over Pepe's mom, and I knew I was within my boundaries. I told her to increase her medication to double what she was taking, because she was on a very low dose, and her symptoms were such she needed more. And I just felt like it was such a blessing that here I wanted to do construction, I didn't feel good, and here God showed me, no, you were needed here today. And all of us, it wasn't just me, but all of us prayed, and she was so grateful, and it was such a good thing that we just happened to stop by.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? All right, last one. We're going to wrap up. This is the last question. Last question would be this. What would you say to the church or to anybody who hasn't gone on a trip before? Like anything that you would want to just say, especially for the first-timers, I would say. First-timers, like how would you encourage, the veterans, clearly.
Our whole statement was crowns down. So if this was definitely my first trip, and I'm excited and still blessed that I went. Like, I feel that like I completed something within myself, but also to help others in need that really needed us. I mean, there's definitely a language barrier for any country that you go to, that like if you don't speak Spanish, like for me, I had absolutely no idea how to communicate, but just the words that flew out of my mouth to somebody else felt great. And they didn't understand, but they understood the meaning that I had for those words. So I encourage anybody, if you want to do something like this, or if you feel that like you want to step out of your comfort zone, do it. I couldn't have had a better money situation. Instead of going to a concert, I went to Mexico to help people. It was great.
And I just got to pause and brag on Cassie for a minute, because we went to a rehab. She went to one without the whole team, but we went to a rehab where all of us were at, and she shared her testimony. And let me just tell you, that was not Cassie. That was God speaking through her, because she was preaching. I was watching visceral reactions of people responding to her story that's unique to her, that none of us can share. She has a unique story, and God used it so powerfully. And again, because she was available. We're not, she's not sitting there getting her crown. It's about what God did. But because she said yes, she had no idea what we're going to do, all that kind of stuff. But God used her in such an incredible way. And so I would just encourage you, whatever you think you don't have to offer, I'm gonna tell you as your pastor every time, because our intention is to continue to do trips. Next year, we're hoping to do multiple trips. Like in 2025, we're planning right now to do 2, if not 3 trips next year. I want to do multiple trips, and I'm just telling you. Look at the ages up here. Look at the abilities up here. It's a variety. You don't get to say no without asking God first. Just say, God, is this something you want? You may be an axe. You may be a cane. They're very different, and they're both very necessary. Just let God use you. And I just appreciate everybody on this team did that. They let God use them, and you find a way to contribute. One of the things that has not been talked about, that was probably the most life-giving thing of the entire week, were these tiny little plastic cups of water and Gatorade that would show up on silver trays as we're on the construction site, because our hydration brigade would just come out with, hey, who needs a drink? Who needs a drink? And I'm telling you, it was life-giving to get those little cups just repeatedly. There's snaps for that. This is what we do, and I'm just telling you, like, everybody has something to contribute. Just say, God, is this something you have for me? All right, anybody else, anything you'd want to say to the church? All right, absolutely.
So this was my first trip, and I was not planning on going at all. I saw the announcement for it, and I was like, okay, it's a trip. But then Gab was like, I'm going, maybe you should think about, consider it. And I was like, okay. And honestly, it was one of the best decisions I've made, and I feel like it really changed my life. It gave me a whole new perspective on everything, and so if you're feeling that way and you're like, oh, maybe it's not for me, I would say maybe like look into it a little more and pray about it, because God will provide everything you need and it could change your life.
Any fear that you have, anything that you think you wouldn't be able to do, God will work that out. I've been on enough of these, and I'm obviously physically, it's easy. For me, it's reminding myself that, and actually the biggest thing was seeing the rehab and then going to the orphanage and then having Teen Challenge come here. Teen Challenge would be an absolute dream for what we witnessed there. It would be life-changing for the entire, every place that we went to. That would be so far above and beyond what they're getting. They're getting 3 bowls of soup a day, these people. So unless if we bring pizza with catsup, and or granola bars or whatever, they're getting soup. So when we come back and we see Teen Challenge and they're praying for us and they're sponsored and they got a year commitment, these people are just hoping to get that same bowl of soup the next day. So it is a very different telling thing. And there's something that it does inside of you and in your heart when you're a part of that you really can't explain. Everybody that's here has obviously felt it, and you can't, it's undeniable, because it's something that happens to everybody at some point along the way. And when you're willing to say yes, God will figure the rest out.
All right. Well, Kendall, you want to say something? Here.
I think last year is a good example of I really thought I didn't want to go and there was no reason for me to go, and I didn't even end up getting my passport until the day before we left. And we were in Philly for a good 4 hours just trying to get my passport, and there was a whole cascade of things. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned, especially with her coming this year, is like, put the excuses away. The enemy is a liar. He's gonna tell you that you can't do something because God wants you to do it. It says in the Bible, Matthew 28, 19 through 20, I'm not gonna say it word for word, but go and make disciples of all nations, and I'm with you until the very end of age. And that is telling us our purpose for why we're following God is to go and bring his good news to other people. So put your crown down and stop letting the enemy tell you lies and just say yes. Money's not an issue. People or like time, just ask God for it. He'll tell you if it's right, and he wants you to serve in some way. So why not go to Mexico and serve the people that really, really need it?
Thank you. And yeah, I would say, just to add on, don't even have to wait for Mexico. You can start that today. You just say yes to God. Things you think I can't do, stop making excuses. You feel like God prompting you to do something, you say yes. Right here and now. So again, these opportunities come, here and there, and we'll continue to present those. But those opportunities to say yes to God, they're all throughout our life. Every single day, we're faced with those things. Are we going to say yes? We're going to make excuses. But I'm telling you, there's no better place to be than say yes to God. You don't know what he's doing in you. You don't know what he's doing around you. You don't know what he's doing in other people. Again, that's not up for us. It's not up for us to sit here and try and evaluate the impact we had in Mexico. We're just the axe. We're the lumberjacks. We're just the axe, right? He's got his hand on the handle, and he's the one that's using us as he sees fit. So God, whatever you want to do, just were we available? That's the question for us. Were we available? Did we submit ourselves? I'll let God take care of the impact, all right? We do all these other things. Stop looking at the impact that you're making. You can't measure that. Were you faithful? Were you obedient? Did you say yes? That's what matters at the end of the day. And I just applaud this team and you for sending us this church. I love the fact that our church, we're meeting in a rented building right now. This is not ours. We don't own anything. Like we're just here week to week, renting this space. But we've helped other people buy land and put up walls and a roof in Kenya and all these amazing, we don't need to wait until we have one for ourselves to help others get theirs. This is just, I love that heart about our church. And I applaud all of you for making this happen. So thank you, and thanks, team, for coming. You guys can grab your seats, and let's give it up one more time for our Mexico team.